Hey everyone, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast. This show is about helping you grow as a coach by standing on the shoulders of giants. Each show, you get a different mentor in your ear. The early motivations, the successes, the failures, the tools, the tricks, and the insight into where the industry is going. All of it so you can make your own dent in the world. Remember, success leaves clues. Now, without further ado, on to the show.
Welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast, coming to you from the base of Copper Mountain. I'm your host, Trevor Whitwer. On today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with AJ Morton. In this episode, we unpack how AJ took a negative personal experience and turned it into a business he loves, a business that allowed him to move across the country to his dream city, allowed him some time freedom, and also allows him to have impact on his fellow health and fitness pros. Now, this is an experience that way too many people in the industry have had. It's when a business coach sells you a bag of goods and false promises and doesn't deliver, and then you're out $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000. This exact thing happened to AJ, and he was able to take that negative experience and create a business around it. In this episode, we unpack exactly how he did it. I hope you enjoyed this episode with AJ Morton. AJ Morton, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Happy to be here, man.
Man, it's good to have you on. We've chatted a bit in the past with this massive group that you've created, and we'll definitely get into that and how that group came to be, and where the frustrations came from. But before you even got to that, right? Like, where did you start your journey in this world of like health and fitness?
Yeah, totally. So I was in fitness for 14 years, and I originally got into it actually because, going through grade school and stuff in high school, I had set on my sights on being in finance.
Okay.
But my long story short, my dad ended up having a stroke on one of our first family vacations to Cancun, Mexico, and he had worked really hard for it. And he ended up having a stroke on the trip on day one. Like literally right when we got there, he was exhibiting stroke symptoms, and so we ended up trying to convince him to come home, and he didn't really believe us that he was acting weird, So we ended up having to have my uncle and my dad's best friend fly out to tell him, hey, your family's worried about you. You should probably come home, go to the doctor. We obviously wouldn't have flown out here if this wasn't an issue. So, we'll go home. And so we did. And he ended up having a mini stroke in Mexico. And then a couple weeks later, thank God we had come home. He had a grand mal seizure at home. And he is obviously still alive today. Luckily he's paralyzed on his left side. But when I saw him going through the rehabilitation process, actually, is when I really got in touch with the fact that I really enjoyed helping people and was very sympathetic to that. But also, and I guess more so, the fact that I didn't want to become my dad as far as health prospects go. And I also wanted to help other people avoid that same fate of, working really hard on stuff.
How old were you?
Go ahead. I was probably maybe 13.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about 13. So most of it, honestly, is semi-blocked out at this point. But I remember, my dad, after the major seizure, he was in the hospital for 3 months, and he was completely paralyzed at first, could barely talk. And so that was really hard seeing him in that state. And then eventually, when he was able to come home, he started doing rehab with a guy who ended up being my personal trainer, my first personal trainer, who kind of got me into the industry during high school. And his name was Rob. I just loved what he was doing for my dad, and I just saw that he was a genuinely nice guy, and we had so much gratitude for him, because he was working with my dad. And so I was like, man, it seems like such a fulfilling thing to be doing with your life. That's something that I want to do. So I actually ended up going to college, still pursuing finance, and very quickly was like, this is not for me. I'm going to be miserable, or jobless or both. And I was like, you know what? I've always had an interest in helping people. I was really inspired by Rob helping my dad. I'm gonna pursue that route. And ended up going that way, and it was a total 180 for me. Really, really enjoyed it. Soaked up the material, and just really started, going that way and enjoying it. And then, so I did that. I started working at Equinox in Chicago when I got back from school, and spent about 5 years there. And year 4, I actually met my now wife, and drawing up here.
So let me interrupt here for a second. And so, did you graduate with a finance degree?
No.
Okay.
No, I ended up graduating. I went to University of Iowa, and I got a degree in health sciences with an emphasis in health coaching and a minor in psychology.
Got it. So at what point in college did you decide that, hey, I need to change the route that I'm going? And then did you have to do like a 5th year or stay a little bit longer in order? Because, if you change your major halfway through, you run into issues. Yeah,
no, luckily finance sucked for me really early on. So second semester, freshman year, I was I'm either going to drop out or I'm going to pursue something else, because I wasn't any good at finance, and I didn't want to spend my life looking at the charts and organizing the numbers and doing spreadsheets and stuff like that. It just wasn't for me. And so, I luckily I found out early enough, and I was able to add the psychology minor to it as well, which I really enjoy, because I think a lot of, a lot of fitness and a lot of behavior change as well, as in what you do is, it has that mindset component and that psychological component in it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, awesome. So you decided coming out of school that you're going big box route. So you're going Equinox, which Equinox actually has a really good kind of education system. They do a good job, I think, with brand new coaches, teaching them how to sell and how to learn and all that kind of stuff. And so was that a conscious choice, Equinox? Hey, I want to go do that. Or was it just fell in your lap? It's right across the street, super easy, convenient. Why Equinox?
Yeah, so after I left Iowa, I came back home to Chicago, and I lived with my brother and his wife until I got on my feet. And Equinox actually, at the time, I don't know if anybody else got offered this, but they offered me basically a guaranteed salary for 3 months.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, great. I that's better than anything I can get. I don't have any clients, so they kind of offered to take me on, and allow me to ramp up without having that financial, stressor going on. And that was really good. I also came in mostly alone. Nowadays, it's they'll bring in 10 trainers at a time there, and they'll just do a survival of the fittest thing. But I came in on my own, and so they ramped me up really quickly. I was full time in a matter of months. And so I didn't need the salary anymore, but worked my way all throughout the educational tiers of Equinox. I was a tier 3+, coach, got certified in kettlebells and some additional nutrition stuff, and really, enjoyed my time. But towards the end of that 5th year, I was starting to want to expand, and to do my own thing, and to be on the other side of that 30% split.
Right.
That was digging at me.
So when you started with Equinox, selling is a big thing in a big box gym, right? Getting new clients. Were there any techniques that worked really well for you early on to help kind of build your book of business? Or did they just kind of hand you clients?
A little bit of both. I got handed a lot of clients, but you still have to be able to sell them, because they would set you up with a free fitness consultation, right? Yep. They weren't giving you a paid client. And so you still had to do your thing. And so, I don't know, I've just always been able to naturally connect with people, and not pressure sell and not be a bro-y guy. So those are the kinds of people who I was always connecting with. Truthfully, my primary clientele all through fitness actually were, women and gay guys, just because there was never any pressure. I was very disarming, and there wasn't going to be any weird, weird sales tactics or high pressure or anything or anything like that. I never wanted to do that. I was always just very honest with people during the sales process. And I guess the one thing that I started doing at Equinox is I just assumed the sale. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm going through the fitness consult, and we're talking, and I'm and here's your goals, and here's what we're going to do. And do you have some time next week, to start? Cool. we'll meet on Monday. The front desk will get you set up with your first, 12 pack or whatever. Right. I never like sold packages right then and there. I was just like always assuming. And then if I didn't hear from them, I would just see them on Monday when we had talked about it, and they were locked in. So
Right.
I didn't have to do like a lot of actual selling per se.
Right. Yeah, I think I think that's awesome. It's a great technique because, like you at the end of the day, like they're not necessarily handing you the credit card either. They kind of go back to the front desk, and if they commit to you and have that time, like the likelihood of them continuing is much higher. That's awesome. So you were with Equinox for 4-ish years, and then you kind of got the itch that like, hey, I'm ready to move on, do my thing. Was it like, hey, I have this big client base and I can move them somewhere, or was it like, all right, we'll start from scratch again, or what was the thinking there?
Yeah, it was a couple things. So the move really came out of, yes, I had a big client base, a very loyal client base, and I wanted to be on the other side of the cut. But also, I had met my wife at Equinox, and we had gotten knocked up relatively early on. So there was that push to like, okay, I could potentially make more money here, and I need to, right? Because now
Right.
I've all of a sudden sprung into this like provider mindset where it's like, okay, like shit just got real. I want to do something a little bit bigger than what I'm doing right now. And so I respectively took, clients who were willing to go out of Equinox into some of their homes. And I also rented space in a studio around the corner from Equinox, actually, and kind of ran my own thing for like another 6 years.
Okay.
And primarily did a group fitness program for women wanting to lose weight.
Cool. Were you just renting space at that time from the studio?
Yes. Yeah. Just rented space from the studio. It made it super easy. I never had like aspirations to like own my own studio or anything like that. So this was just like kind of where I wanted to be for the time being.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like that was the right move? So anyone working at a big box gym or any other gym, they're typically giving a split of revenue, right, to the gym, because the gym's typically providing everything, equipment, utilities, client base, all of that. And so did you find when you went on your own that margin kind of helped propel you forward, or did you find that it was a little bit more challenging right away when you kind of stepped out of the wing of Equinox?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would definitely say both. That's a really good question because, yeah, all of a sudden I was on the other side of the coin. But now if I wanted to grow, I was feeding myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to somehow market myself, which Equinox doesn't teach you outside of the club. And so I had to do that. I ended up learning Facebook ads. And actually, that's where I started looking at mentorship, right? Because I was like, now I got this asset that I want to grow. I want to grow this business. And I want to up-level my lifestyle for me and my family, and eventually step out of that, day-to-day, hour-by-hour trainer role, but didn't really know how to do that. So that's when I started looking at fitness business mentorships on Facebook.
As a gym owner, Coach Catalyst is the key to having low turnover. For several years, I struggled and spent 10 to 20 hours a week communicating with clients via phone calls, Facebook Messenger, email, and text messages. I had tried everything to make my life more efficient. I was at my wit's end. And then I found Coach Catalyst. Since starting the software, I have found a life again, and my clients are thanking me for being so involved in their fitness life. I've cut my daily commitment to interacting with over 300 clients to under 15 minutes a day, and have streamlined my 6-week challenges. I couldn't recommend it more. I just don't know if I would even be here today if it wasn't for Coach Catalyst. If you don't have an account already, you're missing out and not helping the people you could be.
Was this kind of year 5 or 6, or was this like the first couple of years of running the studio? When were you seeking mentorship?
This was, let me see. This was in 2015. So this was like 6 years into my PT experience. And that's when I started going off on my own. Yeah, I went off on my own. So it was year 2 of being by myself, basically.
Got it. Okay. And did you have a good experience right away? Because I know a lot of people don't have great experiences with mentorships because we kind of live in the Wild West, right? As you very well know. So did you have a good experience right away?
No, I had a terrible experience, man. So let's see. So at the time, the only place you could really find a business coach was whoever was on your Facebook feed. Right. And so, I was consuming content from a couple of different people. One of them was resonating with me, mostly for not great reasons, right? He was fast talking from the UK. He lived in Spain and he worked completely online. I was like, man, I really want that lifestyle. Like, that sounds amazing. I want to be free of location. I want to have time and I want to be able to charge high ticket and all that stuff. So I got in a sales call with him and, I said, hey, look, I really, number one is I want to be a really good coach. I want to know how you're getting these great results for people. I want to impact people the way that you are. And number two, I want to like make, your 8 or 10K a month, like everyone does, remotely. So, are we going to do this? Can we do this? And he talked me through it, everything. And then at the end of the call, he's like, cool, it's going to be 8K. And I was like, okay, like, by the way, we had no money. Okay. Like we got pregnant before I was established. I didn't really have a great business at the time. We didn't know we weren't managing money that well at the time. So regardless of how much this cost, this was going to go on credit. We didn't have it regardless. Right. So I was like, okay, cool. Like 8K. I'm sure we'll be good, but my wife just left. I got to get off the phone. I'll give you a call right back after she gives me the approval. And he says, if you get off the call, it's going to be 12K. And I was like, dude, like I have to ask my wife. Are you serious? She's like, yeah, you can go ask your wife, but it's going to be 12K. I said, well, I'm going to be like divorced if I don't ask her, which is going to cost me way more than the 4K spread you just created in this conversation. But okay, like 8K, 12K, either way, we don't have it. And either way, we want this lifestyle. So like, what? Okay. So I wasn't feeling very good about that, but we got off the call. I went and talked with my wife. And of course, she's super supportive. And like, look, 8K, 10K, 12K to make 10K per month every month remotely. Like, obviously that's a no-brainer, right? So she's like, yeah, okay, call this guy back and go ahead. And so we did it. We put it on basically like a payment plan. We put like almost half of it down just on credit right away. And we got started. And right when I got in the program, I just felt like really sick because there was really no program. It was really just, he would send me an email a week with a pre-recorded 1.5-hour thing I had to go through with no organization. Not a lot of time with him because he was, he was in the UK, right? So the time zone like didn't really match up very well. And I just felt really disappointed. And so I actually tried it for a couple months. And I to someone's credit, I'm not going to give him the credit, but for someone's credit, I landed like a 3K client. And I was super excited about it. But the other thing is that he actually didn't teach me how to be a great coach. I didn't get any like valuable coaching skills from him. Right. And so what ended up happening is I had this really high ticket client and I'm a person of integrity. So I ended up having to work with her way longer than 3 months to feel good about that exchange that I had with her for free. She paid the 3K. I probably worked with her for like 6 or 8 months just to like make myself and her feel like justified about the experience and the ticket price. Right. Which is not the way I wanted to be impacting people and not the way that I want to be taking people's money.
So, so let me interrupt here. At the time, were you also running your brick and mortar, kind of meeting with people, classes, doing PT and that kind of stuff? And then your goal was with this mentorship to build the online component. So then you may have a hybrid or maybe the online takes off and then you can go fully online and be able to, get the lifestyle that everyone talks about with online and location freedom and that kind of stuff. Was that kind of the thought process that you were having at this time?
Exactly. Yeah. At the time I wasn't thinking, because my business was like, okay, in the in-person stuff, I was like, I have time and space to add an online element to it. Plus that's the goal anyways. We want to go online. I want to have remote income. We want to move to California. And so, yeah, I wasn't at first looking for a mentor yet for my in-person gym.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, like, this is not what you said it was going to be. It's not what I expected either. So I'm out. I think I've paid you enough money. And so I'm going to just go ahead and bow out. I got like barely a message back. Sorry you feel that way, good luck kind of thing. No explanation or anything like that. No ownership. And then I was like, man, had there been a place where I could have gone and like maybe read reviews about this guy or like talk to other people about their experiences, I might have been able to, I may have made the same decision, but at least I would have been more educated about it.
Right.
Right. And just had some more inside information about what working with him is like. And I looked online, I was like, man, is there like a Yelp for this kind of thing? Is there like can I Google this or on Facebook? And there was no Facebook group. I Googled everything. There was no like central place where you could look up Fit Pro business mentors before hiring them. And so I was like, well, I'm going to create that. I'm going to create it because I think it needs to be there. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I just think this needs to I don't want anybody else to go through the pain of losing so much money, the time I took to go through the program, right. And the lack of funds and everything that I now have in my, I'm in debt and all kinds of stuff. And so I started the group, and of course my review was the first one. I was like, hey, here's why I'm starting this group. I had this experience with this person. And turns out as soon as I did that, 3 other people with very similar experiences who were basically in the same cohort that I was in said the exact same thing about this guy's program. So I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. This is not just me. This is like a thing. Like people go into high ticket programs and, get overpromised and undelivered on all the time. And so that's kind of how Fit Pro Mentorship Review was born.
How did you get those first few people? Did you just invite friends, like go through your Facebook list and just invite people to join the group? Or was there another strategy on getting people into the group?
Yeah, so I did my best on social media on my own, but I also, at the time, I was talking to John Goodman a lot in my DMs because I viewed him, and he still is, as the one of the really trusted places where you could go and get a good quality product, good quality book. He's just an overall great guy, and so I messaged him, and I was like, "Hey, man, all this just happened to me. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to start this Facebook group. What do you think of that?" And he's like, yeah, you should absolutely start this Facebook group. And I'll share it in my community so that you can get some people in there so we can start spreading the word. And so he was nice enough to share it. And we probably got our first 1,000, 1,500 people in the group just from him sharing it with his community. So I'm forever grateful for that, for him really giving me that boost. And since then, it's really grown on its own since doing more podcasting. People will talk about it in other groups. Anytime someone says mentorship, I have, members out there who are like, hey, you should join this group. It's unbiased. You can read reviews about people. There's resources in there for people. And so that's originally how it started and how it got to continuously grow.
So I would say I know a lot about the group, but I'm not actually in the group because I don't think I'm allowed to be in the group because I am part of a software company. And so you've been very kind of strict about who can get into the group, who can't, and which is great because it's a level of integrity and honesty that can happen there without any bias. And that's ultimately what you're going for, right? And so tell me a little bit on how the group is structured, because Facebook groups can just be this mad dump of information. How have you structured it in a way that's actually useful that I can go in and find out, hey, I want to hire Goodman as a coach. How do I find out all the experiences people have had with Goodman?
Yeah. So, keep in mind, I've had to work within the ever-changing constructs of whatever Facebook groups are allowed to do, right? Which, as you know, has changed a lot. And sometimes it's inhibiting and sometimes it's not. But we use our guides section, formerly, I don't remember what it was called. Formerly the units section.
Oh, yep.
We use the guides section now. Yeah. As a place to store, and be able to search for a particular category. So Coach Catalyst, for example, we have a software category that has a bunch of software that people can check out, they can review, and things like that. So we'll have mentors for, lead generation in there, sales, and we'll have it all nice and broken out by that in the guide section so people can find it. We also use the pin post really well to promote people who we know are doing a really good job. So if you're specifically if you're a facility owner, then you'll be able to find that person right in the pin post. A couple of people who are recommended specifically for facility owners. We have people for online coaches, people for Facebook ads, for software. And so we've really tried to organize it as much as we can within the constructs of Facebook. But again, it's been pretty tough. But the first couple of years that I was running it, we did a live training every single week with an expert in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've also stored those in the guide section as well under whatever category they fall into. So I think now we have probably over like 70 free trainings that people can come in and check out from the highest integrity coaches in the industry. You guys are in there as well, obviously, because of the way you guys operate. And people can just come in and learn. There's probably like tens of thousands of dollars of information in there that people can go ahead and just get started with while they're looking through and checking out, okay, like once I get to, this point in revenue, I can actually look at unbiased reviews of business coaches. And here is, the path that I want to take. These are the people I want to hire. These are the people I'm interested in. And they can kind of go from there. They can always ask me as well, because I actually get into the back end of all of these programs and vet them to be sure that they actually have the deliverables that are promised up front. I then get dropped into their support communities to make sure that they have the support that's promised up front. So I almost act as like a customer service liaison between the products and people and companies that we promote and those members who are looking for those good quality products.
So when you first launched the group, you're still doing all of the gym stuff, or I should say studio stuff, and you're still training people. At what point was it like, hey, this thing has enough legs for me to maybe take more of my attention away from those revenue streams and into this? Because most likely right when you started, there wasn't much of a revenue stream. You're just kind of like, hey, I have this problem. Other people have this problem. Let's try and solve it. Eventually you get into monetizing and that kind of stuff, like any business does. But when did you kind of make that shift from, and maybe you still are training people outside, and we can kind of talk about that as well.
Sure. Yeah, no. So expanding on the story of, where we left off in Chicago, I ended up hiring a really great business coach that I found in my group, right? My group at that point was just set up for an open forum for people to just leave reviews and talk openly. I would moderate from time to time, but I wasn't doing anything else with it, and it wasn't paying any of my bills. Like it was and continues to be a free community, right? So I didn't monetize it or anything like that, and so I still needed to focus on my gym, and so I hired a great coach, two great coaches actually that I found within my community, and scaled quite a bit. But then down the line, my wife and I really wanted to move to California, and we were like really making that a goal. That proposition even caused some turmoil in our situation, and I ended up having to take focus off of my business in order to focus more on like, okay, how are we going to get actually to California? Like this was the goal. This in-person business, if I keep growing it, is not going to help me get there. What are we going to do? And so that business ended up starting to actually tank. I left myself exposed without having a lot of contracts in place. I let people barter with me on prices, like all kinds of things business owners are not supposed to do. I did them. And to the detriment, but also, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to move out of the state. So my business was going down south, and my wife was like, look, we've been investing in you. She was also in fitness, obviously. She's like, we've been investing in you for the last, 5 or 6 years. I want to do something. I want to take the reins. At this point, she had been a stay-at-home mom for 5 or 6 years. Okay. And she's just like, I want more, like, for me, man, for us. And I'm like, yep. Cool, because I need a break. I've been doing this for a while. So whatever you want to do. And so she actually went into my Facebook group, and actually, she didn't use my Facebook group. She actually ended up finding someone outside of the Facebook group, and it was another fast-talking, this time female from the UK, and it was another $12K of absolute wasted money. This was a total horrible experience. She even ended up admitting that she shouldn't have taken us on as clients, and that our refund would be there by Christmas, and that was 2018, and we still haven't got it.
You mean you had a group where there were business coaches that were vetted, and she's just like, like I'm gonna do this thing on my own.
Are you married?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She is, I mean, they truthfully, so, okay, at this time, they weren't vetted yet.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, they weren't vetted, but she could have researched people and she could have asked about it then.
Right.
But she wanted to do her own thing. She was in her own forums. She had her own following, right? So there's people that existed in her space that I didn't even know about. Right. So I really wanted to make it her thing. I wasn't going to tell her who to work with, because then if it backfired, it was going to be on me.
Right. That's not something you want either.
So I let her kind of like find her own person at the time. And it was the same story, man. It was insane. And that refund never came. And so again, the lack of integrity was really stoking me. And I was like, oh my God, I put her a review of her in the group. And in fact, it came up again the other day. She took another person's now 15K and just totally like dropped the delivery ball. So there's that. But after that, we really wanted this. So this is going to be another coach. I was like, why don't you look through my group now and find another coach? And so she did. And just researching through my community, she found another business coach. And this one was amazing. My wife built a 6-figure run rate fitness business in a matter of a couple months. And we're like, great, like we can do it. We can finally make the switch. We're making good money, but we couldn't actually afford California yet. So we actually moved to Las Vegas, thinking that we were kind of getting the West Coast at like a discount.
and you were Chicago. You were Chicago at the time, right? So
yeah, we went from Chicago to Vegas.
So the climate changed.
Like weather-wise, we were
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And by the way, that's not true. Like Las Vegas is not getting the West Coast at all, or anything about it at a discount. We were just naive and happy to be moving out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And we were there for 6 weeks, and our situation changed. My wife actually got a job with the mentor who had helped her build her business. So now she had her fitness business going, which is doing really well, and she was about to work for a great business coach. And so we up and left after 6 weeks, found a spot in San Diego, which is our dream spot, and have been there since. But in that time, since I wasn't doing anything, back to your question about when I made this pivot, I really went through a pretty dark period where I wanted to figure out what my contribution to myself, my family, the fitness industry, and really like this world was going to be, because now I was out of fitness. I didn't really have an identity. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I'm not super fit to be a stay-at-home dad, so that wasn't really going to work for me. And so I experimented with a little bit of online coaching with a couple clients that would do it from who I had back home from Chicago. And I actually started running Facebook ads for real estate agents, which was super random for me, but I did it for a little bit and it was fine. But again, I didn't love it. I wasn't contributing. It just didn't really feel like it was going to be a long-term fit for me. So I stopped doing that, carried on pretty miserably for another few months. And finally, I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? Every time I go into this Facebook group and just help people, it just feels really good. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to come from it, but I want to spend more time where things feel really good. And so I made the switch and I told my wife, and I was like, hey, I don't know if this is going to make money, but I'm just going to start providing a lot more service in the group. Right now, it's just a place where people can go and talk amongst themselves about business coaches. But like, there's still a problem in the industry that's existing, and I'm not helping them solve it. I'm just helping them talk about it. Mm-hmm. But what if I actually went out there and I found the high integrity coaches who are doing a great job, and I brought them into the community to promote themselves so that we could end up driving people towards good business coaches who were in such desperate need and who are marketed to constantly by sharks. And so that's what I did. I ended up curating the content from the community, finding great service providers like yourself, and bringing them in order to highlight the people who are doing a really great job in the industry, in hopes that people would just spend less time and hopefully less money figuring out, who's the good coach out there and, who's not just going to take my money and run with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how many people have gotten swindled, right? It's like rampant. I was fortunate early on to hire a really good coach and a really good organization and was able to stay with them for like 10 years. And so personally, I haven't had the experience, but man, like the number of people that have had terrible experiences with coaches, and it's all these kind of high ticket. It's not like, $500 here or there. It's like 5K, 10K, 12K, 15K. I mean, this isn't like inconsequential amounts of money, especially for a lot of these coaches who are just starting out, and they're having to use credit cards, or they're having to take out loans or whatever to pay for this. And they're really just being sold a dream. And it's not like the FCC or whoever's going to come down and like they're going to get their money back. It's just kind of like your SOL. And so, yeah, I mean, I honestly, this is an amazing service that someone needed to create, and I think I'm really glad you created it. Have you ever had anyone that maybe has gotten bad reviews in the group try and like infiltrate the group to try and like save face at all?
Yeah. And it's like sometimes we'll have like co-coaches of the mentor come in, and like it only takes a matter of time before it gets to me, and they'll be like, hey, AJ, like you probably don't know this, but like this person works for this person, and that's where this review is coming from. And so, yeah, we'll get that quite a bit. But honestly, like as the group has grown, the community is so amazing. If they get a cold DM from someone in my community, they come to me and they let me know right away, because I'll PayPal them for helping me keep the group clean. Like it's that important to me to keep the integrity and all the garbage out of the group. And so, yeah, now people will just tell me, hey, like you accidentally approved. And I'm a one-man show right now and have been. So like I'm vetting all the people who come into the community myself, but at the same time, I don't know everyone. Right. It takes a long time to read everyone's bios, and not everyone has like, what they're doing fully listed in their profile. So sometimes I have to do a little bit of digging, but most time people will just tell me, hey, like this person works for them, and I'll go in there and have to boot them out and remove their review because it's very biased.
Right.
So yeah, that definitely happens. Sometimes the business coaches themselves will straight up try to join. And I'm not sure if they don't know, because I don't know what they can see from the outside of the group. Usually I think you could see all the rules and everything, but I still get the periodic business coach asking to join my community. And obviously I cannot.
Right.
But
how many,
to your point before,
how big is the group?
5,000 people right now.
Okay. So, a significant number of people, and they kind of self-police, which helps you in not having to, spend 24 hours a day trying to keep scum out of the group.
Yeah, no, it's really good. But to your point before, man, about how many people are losing money, like, we've lost like 30K to completely BS mentors. But I can't tell you how often it happens, like at least a few times a month now, where someone will be like, hey, I had really high hopes. This person, I told this person what situation I was in. I said this was going to be my last, 10K out of my IRA. And I just got out of the military. And they're like, yeah, don't worry. Like you'll make it back in a couple months. And then like, I'll get on a free 30-minute call with them. And they're like, dude, this was more valuable than anything I got in that guy's 10 to 15K program. Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy what's going on out there. The lack of servitude is insane. And so, that's where I ended up just needing to like highlight who was doing a good job, so that I wouldn't just be hearing horror stories all the time and SAP stories about how this person lost money. Like, no, I need to be more proactive and actually give light to the people who are doing a good job, so that we don't have so many people hiring the sharks and having those bad experiences.
So have you kept it entirely to Facebook, or have you opened up to kind of like a website or anything like that? Or are you just kind of focusing strictly on Facebook?
Right now it's strictly Facebook. There's a couple community platforms that I'm semi-curious in. But yeah, like I will probably make a move at some point, to have it off of Facebook, because it's kind of scary to have,
right,
your entire community on Facebook, and it could be gone in a second. So that definitely hits me from time to time. But it just works really well on Facebook, and everyone's already there. So I'm also like kind of averted to change. So I don't know. It needs to move off of it at some point, and probably will.
Mm-hmm. Do you do like an email newsletter or anything like that along with it? Or is it really just the posts in the Facebook group?
So we circulate all the replays that go on for all of our trusted mentors, like live trainings in the group
Mm-hmm.
to our email list. And we have about like a 4,000 person email list as well. So it gets out there and everyone can get access to all the free content that we have in the community via the email list. But you do have to be a group member to get onto the email list.
Right. So what takes up the most of your time? Because I know a lot of people probably listening to this may want to utilize Facebook groups just for their own businesses and to kind of curate a community, which could maybe lead into coaching services. And so when you're running your Facebook group, is it content creation? Is it reaching out to partnerships? Is it vetting? What is the thing that takes up the majority of your days?
Yeah, so I spend a huge majority of my time in my DMs talking to my group members about their stories, about what's going on in their businesses, about who would be a good potential person to work with them. I offer free clarity calls for groups of 4 at a time in my community, 2 days a week. And so I'll often do that, but I'm often just doing light business coaching to get people into position so that they can actually, have the funds to afford mentorship. Or if they need resources and tools like yours to be able to plug into their current businesses, so they can scale it, or so they can have a better product for their clients. I advising them on that. But most of my time is being spent in the DMs, just relating to people. It's such a relationship based thing, which I think like all aspects of fitness and coaching and any kind of coaching really is. I'm in there just trying to help people. Usually that means doing things that are like completely selfless and just giving people help and listening to them. And just, seeing what they need and seeing if I have a free resource within the group that might help them in their current situation.
As a coach that runs challenges, I needed my life back. I had stuff all over the place. A Facebook group for community interaction, Google Sheets for check-ins and measurements, and was drowning in email communication. As my challenges grew past just a handful of people, I started to notice clients were falling through the cracks. I began researching virtual assistants because I just couldn't manage it all. And truthfully, the client experience was going down the drain. Luckily, a friend recommended Coach Catalyst and just told me to trust her. I'm sure glad I did. Now I can run my challenges with 2 or 200 clients with just a few clicks. The lessons get delivered on the right days, the accountability happens automatically, and most importantly, the communication is all in one spot. I even created 2 new challenges from the Coach Catalyst library. Best part, didn't have to change a thing. I used to spend 15 minutes just trying to log into all the apps I needed. Now I log in and my dashboard tells me who needs a shout out and who needs a kick in the butt in about 15 seconds. I feel like a huge weight is lifted off of my shoulders. I can finally spend my time coaching again instead of worrying about all the admin work. Do your brain a favor and get Coach Catalyst.
So you're kind of acting like almost like a trusted advisor at this point, and you've kind of built this community, and then you can direct them to where their next steps need to be.
Exactly.
So since you have a pretty good pulse on the industry, where do you see this online world going? I mean, are you seeing the online world growing a lot and more people joining the group and asking questions? Where do you see this world of online coaching, be it fitness, be it health, be it nutrition? Where do you see it from your perspective and where you sit?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's all growing, especially online, but I just think it needs to be coming from a relationship based place. Like, you can no longer run a cold ad and expect people to get on a sales call. You can't show up in someone's DM cold and just start like pitching them. It's really and truly about good content creation, getting people to resonate with whatever your beliefs are as an online marketer. And just giving value to people, because people get smart really quickly. The things that used to work before don't work anymore. And now people need to be shown value. They need to be nurtured or over a significant period of time in order to actually know, like, and trust you enough to finally raise their hand when you put out a call to action to get your, ebook or your program or get on a call or whatever. Everything is really relationship based. So you need people to resonate with you, and you need to really feel, you need to be like a leader, who is that light for them, who can guide them from the pain that they're in now to this place of having a solution. because you're not the only person out there who they're talking to. You're not the only person showing up in their DMs. So it's really just about how can you show up for people in the most genuine way possible.
So if you're meeting with a coach for, a brand new coach, and they maybe have some experience outside of online where they maybe trained in person or they worked at a big box gym, and they're really looking at making this move into the online world, what would maybe be the first one or two or three things you would kind of advise them to start maybe building an online brand or building an online presence and starting to get in front of people, build those relationships, or at least start those relationships? What would be some things that you would kind of advise them to start doing?
Yeah, so I mean, that topic comes up at least twice a week. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend, first of all, doing like a social media profile makeover. I view your social media profile as like a mini storefront. And if it's not super obvious within like 3 seconds, exactly, who you serve, what solution you provide, and what I'm supposed to do next, if I want to consume more content or get on a sales call, then I'm going to bounce off your page because my attention span is super short. And there's like 1,000 other people I could be going to look at who are a lot more specific. So the first thing I always tell people is clean up your social media profile, brand it as if you're a business, but obviously a personal brand. So you need to be on it. You need to be smiling. You need to have clients on it, and get super clear on who you're helping. Niching down is really important, especially because, again, we have to differentiate in an overflowing, semi-saturated market that's out there. You have to stand out from the audience, for the audience. And so getting super specific on that. But also, lastly, I guess, would be to start creating content specifically for that niche and just telling people what you believe in, right? And engaging with people. If someone shows up and likes your post, reaching back out to them, being like, hey, like, thank you so much for, for liking or hearting or commenting on that post. If there's any ever, kind of content you want to see from me, please let me know. I'd love to create that for you. So just a genuine, selfless value exchange with no expectations in return. Those are always like my top 3 things to get started online.
Those are actually some great ways to create content too, or at least get ideas on what content you could create, right? Like we always, for our gyms, we tell our coaches, we have our coaches create content, and it's just like answer the questions that clients have in the gym every single day in a public forum, right? Because they're not the only ones that have those questions. And so the best content creation strategies are just like answer questions publicly and solve problems and ask people for what they want to learn more about. And you can have content for days. So that's awesome. Are you,
exactly.
Are you seeing any platforms being more valuable than others? Like is Instagram, is TikTok, is Facebook? I mean, does it depend on your demographic? What are you seeing there?
I think it depends on your demographic and your goal, but I think that for like the general population, TikTok has by far the most reach out of any of them, like on steroids. And while you can't use it to directly sell, you can use it to create an audience and drive people over to your Instagram account, where it's a little bit easier to kind of like funnel people into like a page, a sales page, or some kind of a call funnel of some point or of some kind, or even over on Facebook to funnel people to a Facebook group, which obviously I'm a big fan of. But yeah, I like TikTok. If you can both educate and entertain, I think TikTok is absolutely massive for people if you can get a handle on it.
So there's no DMing capabilities on TikTok, right?
I think there is, but there has to be like two-way like following. Like the person has to be following you and you have to follow them. And I don't know how easy it is to do that. I think you can. But just as far as the reach goes, like there's no faster or larger way to get that much exposure from an audience.
And are you seeing it even with older audiences? I mean, when I think of TikTok, at least originally when I think of TikTok, I think of like dance videos of 15-year-olds, but that's probably changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything now. Like that stuff obviously still exists, but there's some great stuff on TikTok as long as you can like really hone in on what you want to be watching and like don't click off of your, of that stuff too much. But yeah, the older population probably doesn't get TikTok. Typically, they're still on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is still very much alive. Facebook groups are still very much alive. Nothing is like going away. There's no death of Instagram or anything like that. It's all still good. You just kind of have to be strategic with how you're using them. You have to use the new technologies that they're introducing so you can ride the algorithmic wave. And like Instagram, like you have to post reels, and Facebook, you got to post reels if you want to play the game. So they're all really valuable. Obviously, I think the only one that stands out really is if you want to be working with like executives or anyone in that kind of industry, I would be on LinkedIn. It's just a really easy place to very quickly identify the executive person, because no one on Facebook really does that, and they're a much more like, hey, you're in my DM, cool. Like, what do you got for me? Like, why are you here? Is it good? If it's not, cool. They're more open to DMs. And they just want to know if whatever you have is right for them or not, and they'll talk to you or they won't. But it's a very more like transactional kind of thing, as opposed to on Facebook, where you're just like so insulted if someone shows up in your DMs.
Right. No, that's awesome. Well, kind of coming full circle. So you moved to San Diego. Was it the right move looking at it now?
Oh yeah. Definitely the best decision we could have made. I'm so thankful for the things that happened along the way, even though they were rough and caused a lot of stress and turmoil. If they hadn't happened the way they happened, we wouldn't have had the opportunity or the drive to make the move out here. And so we have no intention of moving back to Chicago. We like to visit. We always say like we miss the people, but not the place. Both of our families are from there, and the kids miss it a lot. But yeah, I love San Diego. It's absolutely amazing.
Right. Isn't it kind of crazy how life happens? You took a shitty situation, kind of a couple different shitty situations, and you've turned it into kind of a new career and a new way to really serve the fitness industry. And so, I think there's opportunities in everything. So that's awesome. Congrats to you for, following through on it, not just, making a group and
Thank you.
And just letting it sit there. So that's awesome. All right. Well, let's finish up with some kind of rapid fire stuff here. So burrito, taco, or quesadilla? Which one?
Burrito.
Interesting. This question I always find this one fascinating, because there'll be the people that say like taco and they are all in on tacos and they don't know how anyone could ever say burrito. But then honestly, probably the number one has been burritos. So I don't know. Maybe that's what the people like.
I like them both, and I almost would say taco, but man, there's just something about a burrito that just a taco just can't do for you.
Right. And you are in San Diego, so you guys have pretty good tacos. So that's saying something.
Yeah, it's okay. To be honest with you, and I don't know if I'll catch shit for this at some point, but like the Mexican food in Chicago is better than the Mexican food in San Diego, at least where I've been going.
You must know the spots. That's
it's
awesome.
Weird out here. I don't really understand it.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Next one we got. Purchase that you've made for $100 or less that has had profound value or exponential value in your life. Can be anything. Could be a book, could be like a gadget or technology that you've purchased. Could be a sweet t-shirt. What have you got for under $100? It's been awesome.
That is a tough one. I would have to say the book called The War of Art, actually.
Okay.
Have you read it?
It's been a while. It's one of
my okay. Yeah, I reread it every once in a while when I'm feeling like I need just more inner drive. It's by Stephen Pressfield, and it is just awesome as far as just getting you off your ass and taking action on something that you might be hesitant on.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So would you say that's a good book for a young coach to read?
It's a really good book for like anybody to read, and it's like, $15. And like it's probably one that you'll have like in your arsenal, and you'll pull it out from time to time, and it's kind of lifts you up again and gives you a little bit of a refresher, a new fire under your butt.
I love it. All right. Next one here. If you could live in any cartoon world for a week, what cartoon world do you live in?
That's so random. What are my choices? Like Looney Tunes?
You could be anything. You could be like Flintstones. You could be Looney Tunes. You could be like Roadrunner. You could be mean, what were cartoons that you loved as a kid? That's usually a good leading question.
Oh yeah. Like, no, that's good. Okay. I used to watch a lot of like Doug. I used to watch Doug and Ren and Stimpy, which I feel like in looking back on it, my parents probably had no idea how raunchy that show was, but Ren and Stimpy is a disgustingly funny cartoon now that I'm looking back at it, but I don't know if I'd live there. I'm going to go with the Doug world.
The Doug world. I think that's a good one. I like it, man.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you, man, hanging out with me for an hour and kind of telling this story, and appreciate what you're doing in the industry. And we'll definitely connect up more. If people want to find out more about you, kind of where to go, obviously the Facebook group is a great resource. What are some places that they can go?
Yeah, definitely, search Facebook for Fit Pro Mentorship Review. I'm on Instagram just as my name, and mostly on Facebook. You can just find me there and join the group via my bio. Super easy to find. But dude, thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure chatting again with you.
Yeah, this is awesome. I guess until next time, keep that beard. That's a top 10. That's a top 10 beard you got going on there. So man, keep that thing fresh. I love it. So appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Trevor. I'll talk to you.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. If you are a coach looking to do more for your clients than just workouts, give Coach Catalyst a test drive. Try it for 14 days. Jump on call with your personal strategy coach, Ashley, and see how easy technology can be, all for free. Tell them Trevor sent you. Until next time, keep changing lives.